Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. I failed in one of my responsibilities as a parent. I failed to teach my children where they came from. In 8th grade, my daughter had to give a speech on the Holocaust, and she did what all her classmates did. She Googled Holocaust and found a story to tell. As we come from a family of Holocaust survivors, and ours was not the story she chose, I realized I had not properly honored my family's fight for life, and I had not given my daughter the grounding that comes of knowing your history. Honestly, I was ashamed of myself. When I was young, I don't remember ever hearing the stories from my parents directly, but I grew up always knowing what happened. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. And thinking back on it, I must have heard bits from my cousins and pieced it together. As my father was really young at the time, his family discounted his memories as inconsequential, and it was his brother and sister that carried the story forward. They gave video testimonial to the Jewish Federation, and they spoke extensively at the local schools. My father did not speak, but this was not due to his inability to remember. His survival experience was far different than that of his siblings. He'd been silenced years ago. My dad and his family come from Trochenbrod, Poland, a small Jewish town of 3,000 people, of which only 40 survived. 10 of those were my family. When the Nazis came to Trochenbrod, they turned it into a Jewish ghetto, meaning they forcibly consolidated everybody in town into a very small area to better control them. Thankfully, my grandmother realized they weren't safe and had the strength and courage and luck to get the family out. My dad escaped from the ghetto with his mother, brother, sister into a nearby forest where they met up with other family members who escaped earlier. In total, there were 5 adults and 5 children, all under the age of 10. My dad and his cousin Fran were the youngest. My dad was the loudest. He cried a lot. And this posed a real threat to the survival of the group. So his grandfather took a strap and threw it over a tree and hung my father by the neck. The others were holding his mother back, but she managed to break free and cut my father down. My dad remembers this. He was 3 years old. Another time, his uncle kicked him down a well and left him to drown. My father also remembers this. Silence. I think of my children at 3 years old, how innocent and completely trusting they are. And what happened to my dad breaks my heart. I understand that people in impossible circumstances can do unthinkable things to survive, and I know my father understands this as an adult as well. But nothing will ever heal that child inside him that was so deeply damaged by the trauma and betrayal he experienced. I believe this is why my father doesn't speak. Recently, I traveled to Boston with my dad, and for the first time ever, heard him tell his story. At times, it was really difficult for him to get through, and it was difficult for me to see him in so much pain. And I walked away from that trip with a great sense of responsibility. a responsibility to ensure my children fully understand where they came from, what their family did to survive, how truly blessed they are, and the importance of tolerance, acceptance, and standing up for injustice even when it's not directed at you. And I came to a decision to speak on behalf of my father, whose voice had been silenced. A decision to honor my family by telling their story, not just to my children, but publicly, so that the lessons of the Holocaust are never forgotten. I called my father and let him know that I planned to contact the Ventura schools and offer to speak as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor. And the most unexpected thing happened. A few hours later, he sent me a text saying that he would be there when I spoke. And at the end, together, we can stand together and answer questions. I can't even begin to tell you all the feelings this brought up inside me, but what I am left with is a great sense of pride in my father for being willing to set aside his pain for the greater good that will come of telling his story. My purpose in telling you how I came to this decision is to let you know how important it is to share your life lessons. Reflecting on and learning from the lessons of the past can change the course of the future. And I believe that by sharing our important life lessons, it can serve to inspire, educate, and shape the beliefs and actions of future generations to make the world a better place.